I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice President McCullough, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees. It is wonderful once again to be back at Penn High School and see some of our Penn High School students. Welcome to you. To see some of our other students who are here and parents. It's just wonderful to be back at Penn High School. We love coming here. We love interacting with our administrators and our teachers, and hearing from our students is just great. So thank you so much for having us. I want to take a moment also and welcome everybody who is watching via our live YouTube stream. We appreciate you spending this portion of your Monday evening with us as well. I'll call the meeting to order. And the first thing that we have on the agenda is the superintendent's recognitions and announcements. And so, Dr. Short, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Riley. And just to echo your statements, we are so excited to be here at Penn High School this evening. Principal Rachel Fry, as well as her administrative team, including Mrs. Jeannie Mitchell, Mr. Josiah Parker, Mrs. Sarah Hendricks, Mrs. Crystal Wheeler, and Mr. Jeff Hart will present the 25-26 first semester achievement report. Their presentation will also showcase students from the Penn News Network, and Principal Fry and her team will highlight first semester achievement results, as well as provide information regarding planned and ongoing and upcoming professional development. This presentation will also highlight the continuous progress the high school has made towards school improvement goals, and will share a summary of recent academic honors and fall and winter athletic achievements. Mrs. Fry.
Thank you. Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Short, and members of the board.
Welcome, everyone, to Penn High School. As a part of this year's Spotlight on Penn, Penn News Network thought, what better way to direct our destiny than to bring the PNN studio to you all? As most of you know from my ambassador presentations in the past, I'm so excited to finally show where my Don't Bore the Board segment found its roots and what it looks like to produce our weekly shows. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a senior here at Penn High School who, along with being a PNN reporter and student ambassador, is National Honor Society Secretary, an executive for Kingsman Court and freshman mentoring, and a full-time dancer for a local company where I also teach. Although I don't know where I will be going to college yet, next year I hope to be studying art history, researching where to study abroad, and hopefully interning at a gallery. Now, directors know that opening scenes are important, and the opening of the 2025-26 school year was a memorable one. With Direct Your Destiny as our theme, it was only fitting to have the HOCO theme be Lights, Camera, HOCO. Let's head over to CJ for an update on recent happenings.
All right, thank you, Kelly, and then hello to Dr. Short, President Riley, and members of the board. As you might know, my name is CJ Vantine, and while this is a different setting than usual, it's kind of like my two worlds mixing student government and student media. A little bit more on what PNN is in general. Every morning we do live morning announcements, and we have a long form full in-depth content on everything surrounding the Penn community released nearly every Friday. I've been the executive producer for the past 2 years, so it's very exciting to see my reporters come together with a project like this and show off all of their skill sets. Our mission statement essentially states that PNN's responsibility is to report on school news and events across multiple media platforms for a teenage audience while educating them on how unfamiliar topics may affect them. It's a big world and it's a big school, and even the tiniest things within the building can affect every student, and it is our responsibility to inform them of that. I'll go ahead with my role as student ambassador and give you some of the biggest recent Penn news. I only have a few short things today, as I know Mrs. Fry has a few things to say about Penn sports and just things like that. So first of all, recently it's been announced that 3 Penn students will be running for state leadership positions in DECA, or the business clubs that participate all across America. Veer Verma, Mariam Ahmed, and Mia Helm will all be running. Veer will be running for president, Mariam for vice president, and Mia for regional president. And then, as Dr. Short might remember from me speaking to her and Dr. Thacker a few months ago, there's a big shoe waiting in Mr. Parker's office right now, waiting to be painted. This is part of Project Shoe City with the Mishawaka Mayor Dave Woods Youth Advisory Council as a project to recognize Mishawaka's past and the ball band shoe manufacturer that used to take place here in Mishawaka. And there are going to be some all across the city, and we are lucky enough to have one of our own. And then just some personal updates from me. In the past few months, I've committed to Franklin College, just south of Indianapolis, to major in multimedia journalism and to run Division III cross country and track and field. I'm going on a pretty decent scholarship, and I will say my time and accomplishments with the Penn News Network are the main reason I received this scholarship. Before I go, I also want to touch on the Pennant Sports Broadcast, which is interlaced with PNN. A few of you might recognize the voices of my good friends, James Mason, Nate Tingle, and Ian Mays, as they've been prominent in calling anything from football to hockey to the annual Powder Puff flag football competition, obviously along with the home girls flag football games this year. Mr. Rollo and the Pennant do a great job of keeping up with the sports side of Kingsman's student life and commonly collaborate with PNN as we do share a lot of reporters. That is all I have for you today. Thank you very much for your time. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Evelyn in the studio.
Thank you, CJ. Hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn Gregory, and I'm a sophomore here at Penn. I'm also a member of the PNN crew and help produce news stories and create the show students and teachers watch every Friday during third block. Aside from PNN, I play cello for Penn's Chamber Orchestra, I'm a member of the Freshman Mentoring Program, coach a math competition team at Schmucker Middle School, and I'm a member of several clubs, including Girl Up, Kingsman Against Cancer, Psychology, and Tri-M. As I continue my time at Penn, I hope to take advantage of the different classes offered here to explore career areas and college interests with a focus on writing and broadcasting, inspired by my experiences with PNN so far. We will now shift from the monthly update to a review of Semester 1 achievement. Mrs. Fry is on site at the board meeting to get us started.
A very wise principal began the school year with this statement. Every scene in a movie matters, even the ones that seem small. This year, every day, we walk into the school, classroom, or office. We have the chance to make a moment that sticks with our students for the rest of their story. Direct your destiny. Don't leave the ending to chance. As we have continued to dive into themes each year at our school, always setting ourselves up to have a big expectation the following year. It was really exciting this year when Direct Your Destiny became our theme, and all of the groups related to Penn and the things that we do at the beginning of the year lead us all the way through the year, really tied together with one focus that makes it fun, but also relates to all the work we do every day in this building. And we love that the students have joined in on that, and we're excited to highlight them this evening. We're going to start with some breakthrough performances focused on some data celebrations to keep you up to date on some of the things going on academically. Here's a review of our school improvement goals. As always, we remain driven by these, some of which have shifted based on continuous growth and the metrics we have already accomplished, as well as changes to school accountability models. These remain our focus. We continue to strive for a graduation rate exceeding 97%. Our students on the SAT test in the school day, their junior year, our goal is that we are 20% above the state average in the math, the English-based reading and writing, as well as those who meet the benchmark for both. We are focused on 90% of our ninth graders earning at least 10 credits. I will get into some of those specifics here soon. Our professional development continues to be focused on active learning and student engagement as driven by our accrediting body. And then persistent attendee rate exceeding 80% is something that we are continuing to strive for and motivate students to be here every day. Our graduation rate for 2025 ended at 97%, and we anticipate that to be back up to 98% for our current seniors. And speaking of someone who does so much to organize major events like graduation and the board meeting tonight, I would be remiss not to recognize Brenda Chaffee for making sure everything is well prepared and runs smoothly. So thank you, Brenda. We also anticipate 52.5% of our students in the class of 2026 will earn a Core 40 diploma with academic honors.
It is worth reminding that our current freshmen are working towards the new Indiana diploma. The new diploma does not include an academic honors distinction. However, there are 6 honors and honors plus seals available to pursue. Due to Penn's extensive programming, students have options to earn a seal that best aligns with their post-secondary goals, and our counselors are busy meeting with students, preparing for the next year, and making sure to keep those things aligned. Whether it be enrollment, employment, or enlistment, our students have those options as outlined in the new diploma. What we estimate is that the number of enrollment honors or honors plus seals will be very close to matching that of the academic honors diploma on this most recent diploma, which we're most familiar with. So that is still yet to come, but we see that lining up already. The testing results, we did share these last June in our semester 2 achievement summary as we had those results, but I included them here as a reminder of where we were as we continue to strive to do better. At 19% above the state average in all 3 metrics, we fell short of our goal by 1%. We've added additional preparation and benchmark measures that we are confident will boost our juniors over that threshold this year, and they're taking that in less than a month. I think this is my annual plug for if you know a junior, please send them encouragement as they do their final preparations and get ready to test on March 4th. Speaking of those initiatives, here are some of the things that we intentionally have in place. Progress Learning is our benchmark testing model that we use. Students take these tests in their math and English courses. It not only serves as a practice for them, but also gives valuable data at the individual level as well as the class level for the teacher, and then school-wide for us as leaders, so that we can continue to shift these plans accordingly and focus on the standards that we might see areas of need. In addition, our 9th graders take the PSAT 8-9. Our 10th graders take the PSAT NMSQT and the PSAT 10. That is new this year. And then our juniors do take the PSAT National Merit Qualifying Test in the fall, and now they will again do the SAT this spring. Dr. Carlin is our interventionist that helps supports all of these goals. So he works with students in the fall who have been identified as very strong candidates for national merit, and helps support them in leading up to the PSAT right as the school year begins. That is an optional program, but those students are invited based on their benchmark data. Through our Junior Connections classes, students have been identified based on their 9th, 10th, and 11th grade trajectory as being close to meeting these benchmarks and needing a little bit of extra practice to get over that. So they are scheduled strategically into a specific Junior Connections periods, and then meet with Dr. Carlin to get some extra practice and an opportunity to ask questions and get feedback. Our early college study tables were identified as a group that also could benefit from that support, so they join in there as well. A couple of optional options for student support from Dr. Carlin are some Sunday Zoom sessions going through some SAT practice problems, as well as a self-paced Canvas course, again, just helping them to practice and prepare for that test. In addition, our courses in English and language arts, as well as most content areas, have common course assessments that are directly aligned with the state standards, as well as preparation for this test. And they use that as a group to, when the teachers meet as a PLC, to plan and make adjustments as necessary. Of course, all of those things have you hearing our focus on doing better in 2026. It really is worth celebrating the incredible gains that we made last school year. So our English-based reading and writing pass rate, as you can see here, increased by an impressive 7%. Our math pass rate increased by 3%. We moved from 27th public school in Indiana to the top 15 public schools in the state. And our English scores went 31 to 20th. Math went from 24 to 14th in the state. We look forward to sharing more exciting results with you next time. And I already said it, but encourage a junior. March 4th is their big day, and I know that they will do great because they are well prepared and have been working hard. We've been keeping a close eye on on-track metrics for all grade levels for a few years now, and you've heard us share about that. This data has been critical in guiding decisions, both for real-time interventions during the class, as well as credit recovery plans for students who might fall short. Research tells us that the freshman year is the most critical for student success, so we pay even closer attention to this group of students each year. It is exciting to see the continued growth here. As we near almost 100%, those gains are smaller each year, but still moving in the right direction. However, we, as we anticipate updated accountability metrics, we look at this data with a little more specificity at this point. Excuse me. Rather than a focus on earning any 5 credits per the semester to denote that a student is on track, we are looking more specifically that they are earning 5 credits, with one of those being in math, one of those being in English, and one of those being in either biology or social studies. So that is what we are preparing for. And we are at this point, as you can see, at 89%, just 1% short of our goal. The plans in place to support students make me confident that many will achieve on-track status by the end of this school year based on some of those plans. So now back to you in the studio.
Wow, things are looking good at Penn. Now Mrs. Mitchell, who will share updates on our school's continuous improvement efforts as they relate to accreditation.
Man, they're so quick, aren't they? So script writing, when you think about directing your destiny, we've got all these goals and plans in place, things we're excited about, but the script are the nuts and bolts to make sure those goals are achieved in the end. It's my favorite part. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our continuous improvement through our accreditation efforts, which we've talked about for several times with you now. But as you know, it's not a one and done, it's a continuous multi-year process. So we recently in November, as part of that accreditation cycle, performed our mid-cycle review with Cognia. We submitted our progress on our 3 areas of growth that we've been talking to you about for many years. And we just wanted to share some of that, the progress report that Cognia gave us. On 2 of our areas of growth, the feedback was sufficient progress, no further action required. So just keep doing what we're doing in those plans. One area, though, that they said needed more progress or made some progress would be number 3, develop, implement, and monitor formal processes to advance consistent expectations for staff and students. And we agree. We know that we're continuing to work on this. We have plans in place, but it's a gradual process. I did just want to share, Cognia gave us 2 specific recommendations to continue to monitor adherence and collect feedback throughout this process, and then to implement systematic process to address these things through PLC meetings. And so these are things like grading conversations, PLC expectations, instructional practices to bring consistency across the school. So as you know, that will continue to be our focus. And one of the ways we continue to focus on that is through professional development. This fall, we had our new 2 Penn staff attend Kagan days 1 and 2 training. And so as you know, active learning and this cooperative learning has been a goal of ours. And we found that Kagan really fit those needs, and it's been widespread throughout Penn. So new to Penn teachers got to attend. We also had a check-in for our cohort who attended Universal Design for Learning training last year to continue those processes, to talk about how they're meeting the needs of all students through many different ways. We continue to support our new teachers through ongoing support with instructional leaders, monthly meetings. We have monthly staff PD. We actually have a professional development session tomorrow before and after school. And we're continuing these conversations about grading practices, consistency in our grading practices. What does a grade mean? Is that transparent to everybody looking at those grades? So that's really a huge goal for us, is to bring consistency there. And then co-teaching has continued to grow at Penn. And we've really put in great structures there to support those teachers, both in their teams and to talk about individual students, how best to support them. And they're meeting fairly regularly. Another piece of this would be, one of our improvement goals was to collect more stakeholder feedback on a regular basis to analyze and use that for improvement. We shared these with you maybe the past couple of achievement reports. And I just wanted to point out in our student stakeholder data, 3 of those questions where we saw an increase in their overall appreciation of what we're doing, or their approval rating, if you will, about what we're doing to raise high expectations for them and to create an area or an environment where all learners can thrive. And then similar to that, in our parent stakeholder feedback data, I just wanted to point out a few of those questions where, again, communication tends to be a strong area for us, especially with that introduction of Parent Square and how we're sharing messages with parents, but also in terms of safety being one of the key components. We were excited. We had several hundred more responses this time around with parents than we did at this time last year. And we also added a question at the end that said, please share with us a noteworthy experience that you or your child has had with Penn High School or Penn staff. And while I won't read everything here, I highlighted 2 comments from freshman parents and 2 comments from senior parents. So for example, my child's having a wonderful time so far as a freshman. In addition to her classes, she's a student athlete, has found a club to join, nothing but positive things to say about her teachers so far, meeting new friends. She even talks about how nice food service staff is. All in all, she's loving high school. And then one of the senior parents said, I'm extremely grateful. My youngest child is finishing his senior year at Penn. I cannot thank the staff and teachers enough for all the support they've given our family over the past 17 years. So those were really rewarding to be able to hear from our freshmen, sophomore, juniors, all the way up to our seniors, and what's been noteworthy for them. I'm going to pass it back to the studio now. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Now let's head over to Marie, live at the board meeting.
Thank you, Kelly. Hello, everyone. My name is Marie Roach, and I too am a senior here at Penn alongside Kelly and CJ. I am a part of the girls varsity soccer team, hello coach, and unified track team. I am a representative of the Student Athlete Leadership Council, and I lead clubs such as NHS, Model UN, and French Club. But one of my most meaningful experiences here at Penn has been, without question, my experience in PNN. In fact, it was so meaningful, I wrote about it in a few of my college essays. And with your permission, I'd like to read a few short excerpts. Would that be okay? Wonderful. In the classroom, journalism and broadcasting helped develop my ear, teaching me to appreciate how the ability to truly listen can elevate others. Countless interviews over 4 years reminded me that good reporting depends less on having the perfect diction and more on listening intently and asking the right questions, ones that make someone pause, lean back, and open up. And by listening more broadly, I could uncover great stories that might otherwise go unheard, like those of the students who constructed houses in the Building Trades program or the iftar dinners hosted by the Muslim Student Union. And perhaps no one more than a classmate with Down syndrome taught me about the beauty in listening to varied perspectives. Teaming up with Bella so she could be the featured correspondent in her own segment, coaching her through forgotten lines, or simply smiling as she voiced her unique perspectives never failed to remind me that everyone has stories to share. Ultimately, making an impactful contribution to a conversation in the classroom or at home for a cause or for just simple connection does not always necessitate the loudest voice. Sometimes it means stepping back to observe, leaning in and remaining open, being patient in the chaos, or holding up the microphone for others. PNN helped develop so many skills in my life that I will carry with me forever, whether my future career is in journalism or not. I'm so grateful for having had the opportunity to be a part of it. And yet radio and TV courses are just one example of the many amazing experiences available to students at Penn that prepare them for life after high school. So let's hear more about Penn's college and career coursework from Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Marie. It's always great to hear from our students. College and career, so setting the stage. When we look at college and career readiness, those metrics look at AP courses and students who earn a 3 or higher on an AP exam, and dual credit classes that students take and earn credits for. So those are the things that we look at, the state looks at for those numbers. As you can see, our numbers keep continuing up. Our anticipated 2026 number is 81% of our students will meet a college and career readiness goal or those metrics. So let's dig into these just a little bit more in detail. AP exams, you can see our AP courses, the enrollment number of students that are taking those courses is going up every year. Some of that we look at adding AP courses. We have 2 new courses coming out next year with some networking and business courses. We've added courses at the freshman level and AP levels. So those things have helped continue this in the upward motion. When we have more students taking the AP exam, of course, we have more students earning a qualifying score. So you see that on the far left-hand side, more of our students are earning that 3 or higher on their test. But it's not just because we have more students taking the test. If you look at the middle number, that's the percentage of students who take an AP exam earning the 3%, or sorry, a 3 or higher. So not only do we have more students taking it, we have a higher percentage of students earning the 3 or more. So that's a testament to the PD, the work our teachers are doing in their classes to prepare students for that exam in college that comes with that. And the last number is the number of students within a grade level or a cohort who have taken or earned a 3 or higher on an AP exam. So 28% of our last year's seniors took and earned at least a 3 or more on an AP exam. So look at these in percentages. 83% of our AP students total scored a 3 or higher last year, which is up 12% from the year before. We had 257 students earn a college credential of some type, which was up 26. And 43% of our juniors met that proficiency in both math and English on the SAT, which again is an increase from 3% from the year before. So kids are continuing to move up as we continue our progress with these classes. College credit was the other one we talked about. And again, we continue to offer additional courses for college credit. So more and more students have the opportunity to start out before they even leave high school, even to the fact with our early college where they're earning full associate's degrees before they leave. Looking at current technical education, we looked at the current senior class. So our class of 2026, 91% of those students took at least one CTE class at some time during their high school career. So a vast majority of our students are getting touched by CTE in some way or form throughout their high school, which I think is great. I want to highlight one of our new apprenticeship programs that will be starting up this year. We have a healthcare specialist program. We're running this through Legacy Health and in partnership with Beacon and a few other long-term care facilities. Students that go through that program will have over 100 hours of work-based learning throughout their time. 75% of those hours will be clinical hours in a facility. So they'll be either be in a Beacon facility, in a long-term facility, and we'll continue to build those partnerships as we build this program. So that's really exciting. The kids get some real hands-on experience in this for any healthcare related field. It doesn't have to just be somebody interested in nursing. It could be an individual who's interested in being a doctor or a, man, I just drew a blank. Anything healthcare. The kids will have the opportunity to earn 15 college credits, so that'll add next year to additional college credits that kids can take. They can sit and take their CNA certification exam after they're done with this course. And then they will also kind of redo their CPR certification. As we know, all of our 10th graders get their CPR certification in health. So this will be, as they become juniors and seniors, they can get it again to kind of re-up that and just continue that process of learning for our students. So I'm really excited about that apprenticeship program for next year. And last piece of data I have for you, our current students that are in work-based learning, we're on track to earn 34,000 hours of work-based learning hours throughout this school year. So it'll be really exciting to see what that ends up with at the end of the year, how close we are to that. But that's a big number. That's a lot of students going out into our community, learning those job skills and those career readiness skills that will help them for the rest of their life, regardless of what they do after high school. Now I'll turn it over to Mrs. Hendricks to look behind the scenes.
All right. So at Penn High School, the attendance continues to be a top priority for our staff and students. The amazing deans that I get to work with every day remain focused on this, pulling data every 2 weeks. And the students and staff, we're all regularly reviewing this and using the progress during our advisory period that is during third block. One of our biggest pushes is helping students understand the importance of attendance and being at school and reaching that persistent attendance rate. I know I've talked about this the last couple of times. It's the goal to get to the 94%, meaning they're present for at least 94% of the school year. So last year, as part of our school improvement plan, Penn High School had set that goal to exceed the 75%. We finished the school year at 78.39, and so we raised that, and our goal is to get to 80%. So how are we doing? As again, I said first semester last year, we were at 78.08. And for first semester this year, we came in at 80.63. Our most recent data poll, which was on January 30th, we are at 82.45%. So
That's a great number, and I'm excited about kind of all the work we've done. We continue to do the student incentives at the end of first semester and then at the end of second semester for those students that reach that. And then when we get into second semester, we do if they hit that 94%, and then also if they have a 3% increase. So trying to get kids to just even increase some of that persistent. At the end of last school year, we had over almost 3,000 students that got that amazing popsicle at lunch that you would have thought was I don't know, diamonds. So looking ahead, we're excited to keep this going and finding ways to improve our attendance numbers. Just before we came down here, some ideas were flowing about just some things we can do in March that just get the kids excited to be here. I'm sure everybody has kind of heard, the implementation of the new attendance legislature. We've been kind of figuring out and working diligently at the high school to ensure we're meeting those requirements while also making the progress for our students and family. I've been regularly communicating with different colleagues at other high schools to kind of see how everybody is starting to implement that kind of 5, 10, 15 when it comes to the unexcused day thresholds and what our requirements are. This takes a complete team effort. I definitely need to thank our counselors, dean, staff. We're doing things in advisory. The counselors are having meetings. The deans are making phone calls. And we're working with outside resources as well. So a special thanks to them and to also the team I have working to make this data streamlined. Lisa Krieger, Laura Chrisman, Fran Hoyt, they continue to work to make that better and then get it to the right people. Again, we're a big school, so we've tried to kind of chunk this in different ways so that everybody plays a role in it. And it's been instrumental in making sure the right people are getting that. So between student services and the counseling department, it's just been a key in helping us be proactive and work with our families to get the students to school and help make something. Penn has so many different opportunities for them. So now I'm going to kick it back to the studio. Maybe.
I know Penn is large, but hearing all that has happened in just one semester is pretty shocking. Several more exciting events are coming up at Penn, including the job fair on March 5th, the robotics competition, and Books and Bots Young Authors Conference from March 7th through 8th, the state speech competition on March 14th, and Appeals on Wheels.
All right, I guess that's me. All right, I get the Academy Awards. All right, the first part, I'm going to talk about student involvement here at Penn. Well, good evening, everybody. Dr. Short, President Riley, and members of the board. I have the privilege of sharing all of the fun stuff that kids have been doing this past semester. Students in grades 9 through 12 took a survey during their G3 advisory, sharing their involvement in extracurricular activities at Penn. Club involvement increased across every grade level from last year to this year, with the strongest gains seen in 9th and 12th grade, demonstrating growing student engagement school-wide. We have 123 clubs at Penn, academic clubs at Penn. We also have added 15 more clubs this school year, including a tarantula club. We will not be bringing in tarantulas, I promise. Treat It Forward Club and a Forge Club. He is not. Mrs. Schaefer is. The survey revealed that 40% of our students are involved in athletics, 30% of our students are involved in band, orchestra, theater, and choir. Now on to Ashita Massetti. She has been selected to represent Indiana in the 64th Annual United States Senate Youth Program in Washington, D.C. She is one of 2 students from Indiana selected for this honor, which includes a $10,000 college scholarship and Penn's first student selected in 8 years. She's also a founder and president of the Science Olympiad. The team recently placed 3rd at regionals over this weekend, which secured them a spot at state. Ashita is also the Spell Bowl captain, chapter exec, and state president of the Technology Student Association. She's also a member of the Debate Club, DECA, and Robotics. So congratulations to her. We're excited to share that Penn High School has an NHS scholarship winner. Allison Tessier was awarded a $3,200 scholarship and is now a national semifinalist. Her dedication to scholarship, service, leadership, and character has earned the prestigious recognition. Since its inception, the NHS scholarship program has awarded over $30 million to exceptional student leaders like Allison. NHS was also honored with the 2025 Chapter Pillar Service of Excellence Award.
Our spellable team were the Indiana State champs, sponsored by Angela Yarrell. Aiden Karama was named the Boeing Board of Directors Outstanding Delegate at the University of Notre Dame Model United Nations Conference. A record-breaking 15 students were semifinalists for the National Merit Scholarship. You can see Dr. Gallagher in that one down there. And fine arts at its finest. The play Shuttersome Tales of Poe by Lindsay Price places first at regionals. The Indiana State Thespians Festival was this last weekend in January. Penn High School's theater production of Shuttersome Tales of Poe placed 5th in the state of Indiana. Marching band placed 9th in state this year. They also performed at the Philadelphia 6 ABC Duncan Thanksgiving Day Parade. Congrats to Catherine Hine and band director DJ Landau. Penn Speech and Debate were the 2026 ISSDA State and Debate runner-up, coached by Jeremy Starkweather. They placed first in all of these events: Team Sweepstakes in Valparaiso, Penn Debate Tournament, Chesterton Debate Tournament, Concord Debate Tournament. And they placed 4th in the following events: Ben Davis Speech and Debate, Plymouth Speech and Debate. Congratulations to Jeremy and his team. He stopped me on the way out to let me know that on March 14th, Penn will host for the very first time, the state speech competition. There have about 60 students and 60 schools and over 600 plus students will be here. And he wanted me to share that, so please share with your friends. Spectrum has been selected to receive a rank of superior in the 2025 NCTE, recognizing excellence in art and literary magazines program. Congratulations to Kaylee Armstrong and her students on this exceptional publication. The students in this class handle all aspects of publication process, from writing, editing, graphic design, copying, fundraising, printing, and marketing. Her students work really hard throughout the year collaborating with other teachers and peers to create the award-winning biannual publication. All right, Tall Cop says stop. We finally used some of that Jewel settlement money. In October, Penn hosted Tall Cop for our community, high school, and professional assemblies, which focused on old drugs, new threats, and high in plain sight, featured nationally recognized presenters Melissa Moore and Jermaine Galloway, Tall Cop, and it was a huge success. We received overwhelmingly positive feedback for relevance, engagement, and practical prevention strategies. It also strengthened our community awareness, collaboration, and proactive support for student safety. A team of Penn educators and administrators attended the Tall Cop Emerging Drug Trends Conference in Dallas. We even took a picture in an elevator up at that top right. When Dr. Gallagher goes on vacations with his family, he likes to do the same. So it's a little nod to him. And at this event focused on current and emerging drug trends, including vaping, concealed substances, and youth-focused prevention strategies. The conference had various speakers from all over the country who provided real-world examples, practical identification tools, proactive intervention strategies, and equipped staff with up-to-date knowledge to better support student safety, awareness, and prevention efforts. Based on information received from the conference, we were able to purchase a handheld metal detector wand. We've also purchased lung demonstration models and the Catch My Breath curriculum for our health teachers. Additionally, we purchased new vape detectors for our building and have future plans to secure Tall Cop for another PD for the 27-28 school year. And now I have the honor of turning this production over to Coach Jeff Hart. Lights, camera, action.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. When I hear Marie speak, it's a reminder how blessed I am as an athletic director and a head coach to be around such outstanding young people. So thanks, Marie. As we get ready to look back on fall in a week where our winter sports teams are just having outstanding seasons, girls basketball advancing to the regional finals Saturday, boys wrestling coming off a regional title with 11 wrestlers advancing to semi-state, boys basketball tomorrow night on the road at St. Joe in a matchup of top 15 teams for a league title, girls swimming advancing to the state finals this weekend, where we have one or multiple swimmers in all swimming events except for one. Just tremendous. So this gives us an opportunity to step back, appreciate our fall teams and what they were able to accomplish. So a lot of great things. It's hard to read up there on the spreadsheet, but 94% of our conference games we won, which is a reminder that we're doing great things, but we obviously need to continue to find outstanding opponents around the state to compete with. 5 NIC championships, 7 of the 9 teams won sectional championships, and the other 2 were runners up. 3 regional championships. Our boys tennis team won a semi-state championship, which is outstanding. And then our girls flag football team won a state title, which I'll talk about in a second. 582 fall participants, which is the most we've ever had. And those 582 kids had a fall semester grade point average of 3.72, which is really, really outstanding. Conference recognitions of the 9 sports. 5 of our kids won fall MVPs. Those are voted on by the coaches in the conference. And so, again, great representation, great leadership by their coaches. And so couldn't be happier for them. Girls flag football, the first year it's a sport in the state led by the Indianapolis Colts. I should say took up the ball, ran with it. Our girls flag football team not only won, they just dominated. And so to the point where at the state finals, we had mercy ruled everybody. And state finals, they went over the mercy rule, ran on the field, and the officials had to push them off, saying we don't have that in the state finals. So Coach Maggart and his staff, outstanding coaching staff, led this team, and there's certainly a lot of excitement as they move forward. Special recognitions both came from girls flag football. Quinn Driscoll, a junior on the basketball team as well, was the girls flag football player of the year in the state of Indiana, and the Colts nominee for the Maxwell Club, which is a national player of the year. Macy Little, a senior who also was on the basketball team, was the defensive player of the year in the state. And so these 2 help set an example for lots of future kids to play this sport and play many more, and we couldn't be happier. So thank you for the time.
Well, thank you both, Mr. Hart and Mrs. Wheeler. My name is Noah Teeple, and I'm PNN's beloved weatherman, meteorologist. Every morning on our daily morning announcements, as CJ mentioned earlier, we have morning announcements, and I get the joy of being the weatherman on there. I love the fact that PNN is so collaborative, and when I joined PNN, it became sort of a second family for me. It became that because in class we work so close together on projects, stories, shows, and content for the rest of the school to enjoy. We all have those few coworkers who, you can just go to when you need help, and that is what PNN became for me. PNN also taught me what I was capable of. I would like to share a story with you all, if that's okay. At the end of freshman year, I was pulled into the studio. I was walking in the hall just one random day to be a guest anchor for the morning announcements that day. The reason was because the crew had heard of my previous experience at Schmucker Middle School on the WSMS morning announcements there. I never thought stepping to that studio would turn into a passion that could channel my ideas and emotions into to create a high-quality news production with my newfound best friends and change my life. I'm now a junior, and I'm now a weatherman to some extent, but I'm also involved in lots of other activities at Penn, such as cross country and track. In fact, I just came here from a 9-mile-long practice, so bear with me. I'm also in symphonic winds, and I am in clubs such as PACA and NHS. And this just shows the vast greatness of Penn and the many things a student can get involved in at a single time. I plan to move out to Alaska to pursue either meteorology or veterinary sciences. And this might seem like an ambitious long shot, but PNN has taught me anything is possible. As this show comes to a close, I want to thank you all for being here and your continued support for all of our wonderful and diverse programs we have here at Penn High School. And we truly couldn't do it without all of you leaders. So thank you all for your attention to our presentation this evening, summarizing Penn High School's Semester 1 achievement and spotlighting the Penn News Network. And before we close out this segment, we'd like to show you a little sneak peek of a video showcasing all of the wonderful things here at Penn. A place where learning, opportunity, and community come together.
Where am I? Everything is black and white, and now it's black and gold. Come on, Toto. Let's find our way home.
As she searched for home, she began to meet the people who make Penn what it is. She found strength, not just in competition, but in belonging.
You're going the right way. Don't be nervous.
She stepped into spaces where creativity takes the spotlight.
Here, I can tell you're a wizard. Let's get you home.
And finally, she reached the place she thought held the answers.
I was looking for home, but I am home.
No place like Penn.
To echo Noah, thank you guys so much for your attention this evening. It was an honor to be able to share first semester summary of our achievements and everything our students and teachers have accomplished, as well as to spotlight the Penn News Network and all of the work those students do. I'm sure many of you are familiar with what that teaser is for, and that is the upcoming gala for the Education Foundation, which is focused and has a theme on the Yellow Brick Road, and there's no place like Penn. So, that's all you get to see tonight, but there is much more to the video and a lot more students and other areas highlighted. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to address those.
Well, I think we can get to the questions in just a second. I think you first need a round of applause. Board members, any questions or comments?
I think for me, Noah kind of summed it up when he said the vast greatness of Penn. And you think about how you have vast greatness and get it channeled into something occurring. And I think, that talks about leadership and the leadership that you and the team that you build. I mean, leadership only happens if you build a great team to follow along with you. And you guys both obviously did that, or we wouldn't have the results that we have tonight. So thank you for your leadership. Thanks for what you're doing. And thanks for channeling the vast greatness into the system that it is today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Other board members, comments, questions? This presentation was very well timed for me. After Sunday school yesterday morning, one of my 8th grade CCD students came up to me and he said, "Mr. Riley, my parents are considering whether to enroll me in Penn or one of our other local high schools." And I said, "Son, have a seat. We're going to be here a while." And the presentation that you gave highlighted some of the details of which I was already aware, but provided many details of which I was unaware. What an amazing thing you guys have going on here. And the presentation, including the SAT results, the standardized test results, the college and career readiness, all the apprenticeships, the attendance improvements, the job fairs, club involvement, the extracurricular awards. And I only just wrote down a few of the things that you guys presented so well. We owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. To you, Mrs. Fry, also to you, Dr. Gallagher, to all of our administrators, Mrs. Mitchell, Mr. Parker, Mrs. Hendricks, Mrs. Wheeler, and to you, Mr. Hart. You guys have done such an amazing job making Penn High School even better than it already was. I also want to take a moment to express our appreciation for the parents of the students who have presented, because we know that our students are getting they're getting a lot of support at home, and that comes across as well in their outstanding academic achievement. And then that brings me to our students themselves. Time just doesn't permit me to give you the type of attention that you really deserve, but you guys are just absolutely amazing. We're sometimes asked what our favorite part of being on the school board is, and it's without question, it's this. It's seeing what you're involved in and hearing from you and getting to interact with you. Noah, what do you do with the other 5 minutes in your day?
I learned piano.
Of course you do. Oh gosh, and Marie, I don't know what the future holds for you. I know God holds it, and He's got special plans for you. You're just an incredible person. And when you guys get back to school, will you please pass along our appreciation for Kelly, all that she's done for us. CJ, where's CJ? Is she still here? Well, CJ, As well, we've always appreciated CJ coming in and giving us updates on what's going on at Penn, and Evelyn. So Noah, Kelly, Marie, CJ, and Evelyn, thank you guys all so much for your contributions to this presentation, because you've made it absolutely wonderful.
So much for having us. We're really happy to be here tonight.
Come on back and see us before you go, okay? All right. And thank you again to our teachers and administrators. It's an absolutely wonderful presentation. That brings us to the conclusion of our presentation portion of tonight's meeting. If anybody was here just specifically for the presentation, now would be a good time to leave before we move on to the business portion of the evening. So I'll pause for just a moment. Okay. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any changes? Administration?
Administration has no changes.
Motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Next up is the approval of the minutes. Board members, any additions or changes to the minutes from the January 12, 2026 executive session, regular board meeting? Administration?
The administration has no changes.
Motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries by a vote of 6-0. And that brings us to the consent agenda. And Dr. Short, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Riley. Members of the board, we are happy to recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented. A few things in particular that I'd like to point out appearing on the personnel report. Under certified staff are the following retirements for the end of the 25-26 school year, including David Van Udegem, teacher at Moran Elementary, following 33 years of service. Bonnie Wolfgang, teacher here at Penn High School, following 34 years of service, 32 of those within Penn-Harris-Madison. Donna Hipscher, teacher at Schmucker Middle School, following 37 years of service. Peggy Reisdorf, teacher at Prairie Vista Elementary, following 34 years of service. Debbie Parisi, teacher at Elm Road Elementary School, following 32 years of service. Kathy Dance, teacher at Madison Elementary, following 38 years of service. Appearing under personnel report under classified staff are the following retirements. Denise Baran, EA for Penn High School, who will retire after 12 years of service. Laura Jaworski, who is an educational assistant at Meadows Edge, who will retire after 16 years of service. And then on behalf of the board and administration, we wish David, Bonnie, Donna, Peggy, Debbie, Kathy, Denise, and Lori the very best in their upcoming retirements.
Yes, we do indeed. Board members, any questions on the consent agenda? Motion to approve?
I so move.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries by a vote of 6-0. And now we'll move on to our business and operational services action item, which is the approval of capital improvements. Dr. Short.
Thank you, President Riley. Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Sean Gallagher, will present our first business action item this evening, which is a request for approval for the capital project improvements. Dr. Gallagher.
Good evening, Dr. Short, President Riley, members of the Board of Trustees. The administration respectfully requests approval of 5 capital improvement projects. The total combined expenditure is $704,073.04 and is allocated to vendors and contractors selected based on their competitive pricing and responsiveness. So these proposed improvements are in direct alignment with our comprehensive PHM facility feasibility study and our non-bus replacement plan, and are integral components of our detailed 2025 and 26 capital improvement plans. The projects are detailed on the screen, which are kind of hard to read, but that's what I'll share just a brief summary. Specifically, we are recommending the purchase of 4 district service vehicles to replace aging fleet vehicles and enhance our operational efficiency across the district. These replacements are intended to reduce maintenance costs and improve reliability and support consistent high-quality service. Vehicles being replaced have been in service ranging from 15 to 18 years in length. Additionally, we are recommending the award to replace aging fuel tanks at the Transportation Center and complete Phase 2 of our camera replacement at Penn High School. The 28-year-old dual wall tanks that are at the transportation building are right at the end of life and are being replaced due to the risk of internal corrosion and failure. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments?
Just one comment, Dr. Gallo. Thanks. I like the new format on the bids. It's very efficient.
Okay. Yeah.
And nice to just click and read. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Dr. Gallagher. I'll take one motion for the entire slate of capital improvements as presented.
Second.
Well, let
you
me
have to finish.
let me state the motion. so you know what you're voting on. The motion is to award the capital improvements projects to listed vendors as presented. So is there a motion?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. And again, thank you, Dr. Gallagher, for your work on that. We'll move nicely and swiftly into the approval of professional services agreement. And Dr. Short, would you like to introduce this?
Good. Thank you, President Riley. Dr. Gallagher will continue this evening with our next business action item, which is a request for approval for professional services agreement. Dr. Gallagher.
All right, good evening again. The administration is recommending approval of 3 professional service agreements with a total expenditure of $958,200. These professional service agreements include district safety, roofing, and masonry improvements, asphalt replacement, and interior improvements at Penn, Discovery, North Point, Meadows Edge, Horizon, and Moran beginning in 2027. Each professional service agreement is linked in the spreadsheet with total cost estimates and notes for transparency. The administration is planning $25 million worth of improvements for 2027, with improvements scheduled at most of our PHM facilities. This list was reviewed and prioritized based on our criteria such as safety and security, our learning environments, replacement cycles, and the district's goal of maintaining and improving the overall appearance and functionality of each educational facility. Additional information related to the district's financial health, the debt service plan, and the legal steps for borrowing will be presented to the board tonight, and work is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2027. As you'll see on the screen, these are just a few of the major improvements that are being planned in 2027, including basically a remodeling of the inside of Discovery Middle School. All spaces and classrooms will be touched. You'll see there that it's been 30 years since that's had some tender loving care there. So we're going to work on Discovery in 27. The same is true for North Point. All spaces and classrooms will be new carpet, new lighting, new paint, and refresh that space. We have fire alarm panel upgrades at Penn High School, roof replacement at Penn High School. We're doing LED lighting at Madison Elementary, and then also at Meadows Edge. We're finishing that project. That project has already started. And then we have asphalt replacement and repairs at Schmucker and Penn High School. And each year we also have built into our project plan upgrading wireless networking and classroom technology, in addition to district-wide operational facility safety and technology infrastructure improvements. The 2027 capital project executive summary, which was provided, has a detailed list of every single project that we are planning for 2027. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Board members, questions or comments?
I don't know whether it's a question or a comment, so I'll throw it out that way. But, Mrs. Smoker and I attended the leadership convention, the SBA leadership convention. Ton of discussion about Senate Bill 1, the impact that it's going to have on schools like Noblesville and the one right next to Zionsville, have already talked about significant cuts that they're going to have to put in place as part of that. I know the answer to this question, but these are all 2027 projects, so we've got time to continue to watch how Senate bill rolls out before we have to do anything. And again, second of all, to me, watching our enrollment numbers for where it ends up this year, where it starts next year, and looking at a 3-year plan, taking a look at expenses and enrollment and revenue generation are critical to us as we continue to move forward in this path, just like every other school the state of Indiana is having to face as well. And so I just want to point out that the 3-year plan, I think anyway, is critical to us to get our arms around as we look at spending $50 million.
Other board members?
Just want to remind the public, a lot of times they bring up these projects. This is for 2027. I know this summer we stopped, well, the parking lot's not done yet. You guys voted on that 6 months ago. So always a reminder, great job with our administration working out well over a year. And just be patient.
Very good. Any other school board members? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to award the professional services agreement as presented?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. And thank you again, Dr. Gallagher. And we'll move on to our business discussion item, which is the first reading of revisions to board policies. Dr. Short.
Thank you, President Riley. Mr. Ryan Snoddy, PHM's Neola Associate, met with PHM's Board Policy Committee on November 20th to review the current update to our board policies. The Board Policy Committee includes Board Attorney John Rogers, Board Policy Liaison Mr. Chris Riley, Mrs. Lucha Ramey, Mrs. Rachel Hugenboom, and me. Following the committee's review, the revisions have been processed in-house to get the policies in the pre-adoption format, which is what is being presented to the board this evening. There is one new policy, one revised bylaw, 4 revised policies, 1 replacement bylaw, 2 replacement policies, and 1 policy recession scheduled for a first reading this evening. These bylaws and policies are the first group to undergo revisions at the most recent update, and I ask Board Attorney Mr. John Rogers to present the 10 bylaws and policies to you. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Dr. Short, President Riley, members of the school board. As Dr. Short indicated, we have 10 new policies. 1 is a brand new policy. There are 5 revisions, 3 replacements, 1 rescission, and then 3 technical corrections that I'll be discussing today. First is 6325. This is a new policy. This is on procurement and being in compliance with federal grants and funds. So this was in conjunction with Neola, realizing that this is a policy that we've already had in place. It brings us into compliance with CFR 200.319 and 200.320, but it wasn't formally a policy that we had, and so it's something that we needed to add. Now we go on to the revised policies. First, we have 0167.2 executive session. This proposed revision allows us additional executive session discussions per Indiana law, including employee handbook changes, reviewing negotiations on performance and publicly bid contracts, and soliciting proposals for the purpose of awarding contracts if doing so would disclose proprietary data from some of those people we'd be doing business with. We then have revised policy 3220 on staff evaluation. This brings us in line with amendments to Indiana Code 2028 11.54, that it's not subject to the open door law. Revised policy 6320 on purchasing. This kind of is in conjunction with our new policy 6325. So really what it does is brings us in compliance with federal regulations. Again, this was in discussion with our partners at Neola, ensuring that we're following all federal money received from federal grants and not from federal grants, and dividing those two out. We have revised policy 7540.02 web content, apps, and services. This is an update that was needed and I think warranted. It discusses the digital content and accessibility policy. It brings us in line with updates to federal regulations that have gone into effect within the past year. It changes references really from contents of web pages, apps, and services to corporate generated digital content, which is sort of a more focused and narrow approach than we had been using specifically. It also brings us into compliance with the Web Content Accessibility Act, Guidelines 2.1 Level AA standards, which is an update from our 2.0 standards that we were previously using. We have revised policy 8462 on child abuse and neglect. The revision of this policy brings us in line with legislative updates that went into effect last year, including mandatory reporters for each staff member, youth coach, volunteer coach, or volunteer. Previously, our policy was just each staff member, and so it's more broad and expansive now. We have replacement policy, so those were revisions. We have a replacement policy now. 0142 on election and eligibility to serve. So this totally replaces our past policy with new legislative changes that went into effect July 2025, which we did adhere to, by the way, in our most recent school board nomination. But it sets forth the manner now in which school board members petition to have their names on the ballot, what information they have to disclose, name, address, office sought, and political party, independent or unaffiliated. Again, all new legislative updates that have gone into effect July 2025. We have replacement policy 8452 on automated external defibrillators. So this replacement policy updates our corporation's AED policy. It sets forth preparing venue-specific emergency planning in collaboration with the Department of Education and our local health departments. It ensures that AEDs are clearly marked and easily accessible at any venue where an athletic competition is going to take place. I think it does a really good job of updating and bringing in line our policy with legislative changes, but also with updates through some of these nonprofit organizations and local health departments as best practices. We have replacement policy 5350, student suicide awareness and prevention. Again, this brings us in line with recent changes to Indiana law and modernizes our policy from where it previously had been in this area. It requires MOUs with local state certified providers that are able to deliver mental or behavioral health services, which we do. It clarifies partnerships between families, community, and corporation are necessary to support these overall needs. We then have a rescinded policy, 3220.01, teacher appreciation grants. As we all know, that legislature removed those. And so Neil suggested that we remove that policy as well. And then finally, we have 3 small technical corrections. I know they were already in the consent agenda, but I'd written about them just to make sure everybody was aware. Technical correction to 7455, accounting system for capital assets, just corrects that under our accounting system, the chief financial officer establishes the method used to estimate market value for leased capital equipment. Technical correction 8121, personal background checks. It just updates the Indiana code citation that we use. And technical correction policy 8500, food service program, is just a technical correction from will to shall in terms of the USDA guidelines. And that is all of our policies for first reading. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now. If not, we'll have a second reading next month.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Board members, any questions or comments? I will say just, Mrs. Smoker, I'm not sure if we've gone through policy adoption for you, but just for all of our school board members, but in particular for you, because, you know, just being new on the board, normally Neola sends us a packet of proposed revisions that are about that thick, and we narrow it down and advance for the board's consideration only those policy adoptions, revisions, rescissions, or technical corrections that are absolutely required by law. So none of these are Neola's suggestions per se. These are suggestions that are based strictly because of legislative and regulatory changes. Okay, so this was presented for discussion only tonight, and Dr. Short and Mr. Rogers, thank you both for presenting this information to the board. Board will take action on these bylaws and policies at the March 16, 2026 meeting. Okay, next up is the Business and Operational Services hearings. Dr. Short.
Thank you, President Riley. So next on the agenda is the first preliminary determination hearing for the 2026 and 2027 capital improvement projects. And we will go ahead and ask Dr. Gallagher to introduce this item.
I don't know, did you have a comment to say on this one, President Riley, right before?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
So tonight, the board is to hold the first of 2 preliminary determination hearings on the proposed construction projects. If you are interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet, which should include your name and address. After presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the projects. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the proposed projects under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination was published as legally required. And I'll now ask the Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Sean Gallagher, to explain the purpose of the meeting.
Thank you, President Riley. Pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1, 1-20, 3.5, a school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution to preliminarily determine to issue bonds and enter into a lease for projects for which a total cost is in excess of certain thresholds. These public hearings are the very beginning of the legal process. And so note that this first hearing is solely to hear public comment, and no board action is legally required at this hearing.
And we will now hear from Dr. Gallagher, Mr. Quiet, and Mr. Matt Shoemaker of Stiefel about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community, the need for the projects, and how the proposed projects will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical property taxpayer. Dr. Gallagher.
Well, good evening, Dr. Short, President Riley, members of the board. We have a presentation to help us follow along here, but the administration is requesting authorization to enter into a lease and issue bonds in the total amount of $50 million for identified 2026 and 2027 capital improvements. This includes proposed renovations of and improvements of school facilities throughout the corporation, including the building envelopes, mechanical systems, energy efficiency, safety, and security systems, site condition and circulation, exterior grounds and amenities, and the maintenance and refurbishment of learning spaces, and the purchase of technology, service vehicles, buses, and equipment. And we're collectively calling these the projects. Again, there's 25 million we'll be asking for over 2 years, 25 each year, and the financing will be distributed over those 2 years. You can go to the next slide. So the educational need, as you can see from the timeline that you can see in your presentation, we are working through a comprehensive list of short-term and long-term capital projects that were identified as part of the PHM facility study in 2022. Our district facility study report was presented in July of 23, and PHM then proceeded to go through the legal steps to secure financing in 2024 and 2025. So here we are again, as we work through our plan. Funding was received for those projects, and the majority of those projects are complete, with a few that will be concluded this year. I presented the 2026 slated project at the January school board meeting and shared a summary tonight of our 2027 capital project plans. As I stated, this is a first preliminary hearing to hear public comment. Go to the next slide. Each project identified is part of, there you go, the next, our master plan, and it's aimed to maintain and create optimal learning environments for our students as we prepare them for college and career readiness. This includes high-quality facilities that are engaging, that provide flexible and adaptable spaces while remaining clean and fresh to keep students motivated and focused. And in addition, we regularly review our curricular needs and work to ensure our facilities are aligned with a 21st century focused approach. Next slide. We are also data-driven in our approach to decision-making and rely on multiple sources of information to inform our planning. Each of the projects are designed to address the following: safety and security, learning environment needs, replacement cycles of equipment, and maintain the overall appearance and functionality of each facility that our community expects. And you can see here, this on the screen there is a list of our stakeholders that we collaborated with. If you go to the next slide, slide 9, you'll see the list of our 2027 plans. Go one more slide, please. So 25 million in 2026, 25 million in 2027. And then on the next slide is a quick summary that summarizes our facilities plan for the major projects that will begin in 26 that were shared with the board at the January 12th school board meeting. So I won't read these to you, but they're in order from expected largest cost down to the lowest cost. And you'll see some of the major improvements that I mentioned at Prairie Vista and Schmucker Middle School. We're doing significant renovations at those 2 buildings. And then including we have the Space and Exploration Center. And then we also have interior improvements at Walt Disney. So those are the significant projects. And the remaining are district operational facility, safety, and infrastructure improvements. The next slide is a summary of our plan, and we're going to listen to some music, which is awesome. This list summarizes our 27 projects that I discussed earlier tonight. That also includes district safety, roofing, and masonry improvements, asphalt replacement, and interior improvements at Penn, Discovery, North Point, Meadows Edge, Horizon, and Moran, beginning in the summer of 2027. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Zach Quiet, in collaboration with Matt Shoemaker from Stiefel, who will speak to our fiscal responsibility as a district and our capacity to complete these projects.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gallagher. Good evening, Dr. Short, President Riley, and members of the board. As we pivot to our financial framework for these projects, I hope the theme that we see throughout this is doing more with less here at PHM. PHM has a long-standing reputation of fiscal discipline, consistently maintaining a tax rate that is among the lowest of school districts in the region. This isn't by accident. This is through partnership with a lot of professional partners that are leaders in the industry in the state of Indiana. We partner with experts from Policy Analytics, Stiefel, Ice Miller, Senator Dalton, and Fanning Howey, to name a few, to ensure that our capital planning is backed by the best projections and data that we can have to make these decisions. To understand where we're going, we have to look at how we arrived at our current rate. As you can see on the screen there, we're at 0.854, lower than every school district in the St. Joe and Elkhart County area. Traditionally, PHM over the last 3 years has targeted a 9.275 tax rate. So it begs the question, how did we move to 0.854? In an attempt to, well, if we go back to as our 2026 budget prep, and we focused on targeting that 0.9275 tax rate, we anticipated a lower net assessed value based on a lot of these changes and things coming through with SCA 1 and being as fiscally prudent as we felt was responsible. We asked the board to approve a levy that reflected that anticipated assessed value loss. However, when the state certified that net assessed levy that we had projected months later after we had approved that, the projection or the certification came in higher than anticipated. Because of that, statutorily, we can only collect the levy that was board approved, right? And so without going back to the community to ask for an additional levy, that drew our tax base down to that 0.8541. And so while that lower tax rate traditionally is seen as our ultimate goal, I think what we learned with SCA 1 is that the relationship between our tax rate and tax levy are highly intertwined and becoming more complex as we navigate this new landscape. So as we look at the looming impacts of SCA 1, understanding this relationship, I think, is vital to ensure that we don't accidentally limit ourselves in our capacity to maintain our schools to the standard that we have expected over the years. So I think it's important to look at what is SCA 1. We've talked about this publicly in a couple of different board meetings, and we'll try to summarize it in 2 slides for you. But what you're seeing here, well, Senate Enrolled Act 1 is a comprehensive 2025 property tax reform law that transitions Indiana from a fixed dollar tax deduction to a larger percentage-based deduction, effectively shielding homeowners, farmers, and rental owners from the full impact of rising the values. But to put this in perspective, our local tax base, the net assessed value, which is our blue line on this chart, is expected to undergo a period of significant stagnation or even decline through 2031 as this new deduction phases in. So for many homeowners, particularly those with average or higher than average value homes, the new 66.7% supplemental deduction will outpace the old fixed dollar amount system, providing the necessary break on the rapid assessed value increases that we've seen since the pandemic. However, as school corporation, we must navigate the mechanics of this shift because the total value of property is in the district is being intentionally reduced through SCA 1. These policy changes to the math of our local finance has to adjust. While this reform suppresses the growth of taxable property value to keep tax bills lower than they otherwise would have been, it necessitates a potential increase in local tax rates to maintain funding for schools and public services. So now that we've talked about the mechanics of what the bill does, I think we felt it was important to work with our partners to understand what that means for our homeowners and our property owners and PHM. And so as we look at this chart here, it represents a few different things. We've analyzed 3 scenarios for you here. Our old strategy, which is in our green line there, was before SCA 1 and the target of 0.9275. A new strategy that would keep the tax rate fixed at 9275 with the impacts of SCA 1 or with the changes implemented through SCA 1. And then finally, in the orange line in the middle there, you will see a proposed strategy that focuses on maintaining a stable levy, right? And levy translates into those dollars received by the school district to maintain the projects and execute on these projects that we're talking about. To be clear, you'll notice that the debt levy is a 2% growth model. That is not required for the projects we're proposing today. However, we're to use it as a baseline so that we can understand the mechanics of how SCA 1 is working. So if we look at the actual math for 2027, we chose to focus solely on the fixed rate. A median homeowner in Harris Township would see an additional 4% rate increase, right? If we have focused on that 2% levy growth for the debt service versus a fixed tax rate of 9275, that's a $4 impact potentially to a homeowner. While that is a win for the homeowner, that's roughly $168,000 in lost assessed value or levy or PHM. I think the real perspective comes when you look at the pre-SCA 1 strategy. If you look at that green line there, the savings just from the pre-SCA 1 9275 to the 2% levy would be roughly a $400 savings for our homeowner. So SCA 1 is doing what it's intended to do, which is drive down the liability for our property owners. By 2031, that distance becomes a defining factor for all school districts. As Mr. Fox pointed out, this is not a PHM local issue. This is a state of Indiana issue. And that as that fixed rate approaches, if we look at the fixed rate, that may save the homeowner, so the orange and the blue line, $200 to $300 in their property tax. But that would also trigger on the levy side for PHM multiple millions of dollars in loss in levy, which that levy allows us to execute on these projects that we've demonstrated the need for. But I think here's the striking takeaway, that if we look at comparing SCA 1 or pre-SCA 1 at the 9275 rate, that is a difference of almost $754 that our or our property owner will see because of these changes enacted by SCA 1. So the legislators have told us with this new law, we would be doing less, or we would less of more, right? Was kind of the narrative they shared. And I think what we are learning is that without an adjusted tax rate to protect our levy, PHM will simply have less. We can achieve these capital projects with minimal to no impact on our homeowners, but it requires us to shift the conversation away from the fixed rate and a focus on maintaining a stable tax levy. What this strategy does not require is any need to move outside of the Indiana's already established property tax caps. So if we think back to 2008, Indiana enacted the circuit breaker property tax caps, which much of the state saw these fully phased in by 2010. St. Joseph County was granted a reprieve, only fully entering into the cap system in 2020. Since 2021, any PHM property owner who reaches those caps has received a circuit breaker credit. I want to be very clear with the board and the public, these proposed capital projects and the levy required to fund them remain fully subject to these state mandated property caps. We are not asking this community to go beyond the protections already established in the state statute. PHM has a long and proven track record of being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars, consistently finding ways to do more with less. As we move forward, we will continue to be prudent. However, as we discussed tonight, the new normal created by SCA 1 means we must shift our focus from simply maintaining a tax rate to proactively managing a levy. This shift in strategy ensures that PHM will continue to provide the best-in-class educational spaces while remaining within the limits of the tax caps and, most importantly, limiting the liability of our homeowners. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Matt Shoemaker from Stiefel, who will walk us through the specific debt capacity and how we can structure this to fit within our long-term financial plan.
Good evening, Dr. Short, President Riley, members of the board. Matt Shoemaker with Stiefel, Carl Sender with Sender and Dalton. We have both worked with the school corporation for many years on your bond issues. Our role tonight is to talk through the potential financial impact of the proposed projects. First place we always start is where you stand currently. So this page shows all of your current outstanding debt obligations color-coded by bond issue. This is shown in the form of your debt service levy. As a reminder, your debt service levy represents the dollars, property tax dollars collected to service your debt. You will notice in this page that your debt payments are in descending moving forward. Zach mentioned this. This is through no coincidence. This goes back to years of long-term planning. Essentially, the school wants to be in a position where we can talk about these proposed projects and do so without impacting the taxpayer. As we look at the proposed repayment from the 2026 approval bonds, I will say that this is not set in stone. This is just how it could look. So for purposes of tonight, this is what we're looking at. The dark blue represents the 2026 bonds. The light blue represents the 2027 bonds. These are layered on top of your outstanding bonds. You can see they are done so in a levy neutral manner in 27 and 28. And when I say levy neutral, I mean not increasing the tax liability of your property tax payers. After 28, you're back in really the same position that you are right now. You'll have that descending slope on the outstanding debt service levy obligations. Again, we want to make sure that we're not handcuffing the school corporation in future years against future projects. Put you in a position to be flexible. Obviously, there's been a lot of legislative changes. We want to make sure that the school corporation is in ability to address facility needs in the future. Again, hopefully without impacting the taxpayers. We've shown this in the past. This represents future capacity. Obviously, this is based on a set of assumptions, but essentially we've looked at if you keep the levy constant moving forward, how many additional dollars could there be in the future? So after doing the proposed projects that we're talking about tonight, what would be left under your levy to be able to do in the future? We've quantified that. This is a snapshot in time. As of today, you're looking about at an additional $95 million. So when we talk about keeping and preserving that flexibility in the future, there will be ample room in the future to address facility needs if and when those come up. The last page that I have for you, you do not have a resolution in front of you tonight, but I do like to walk through the financial parameters. So if there are any questions, we can talk through those tonight. I will note that these are worst case or maximum parameters. The majority of the numbers on this page typically will come in significantly under what we're putting in the parameters. But again, we have to assume kind of the worst. And then once the bonds are issued, most likely these numbers are going to come down significantly. So maximum par amount of the bonds listed at $50 million. This is a not to exceed number. You can borrow any number up to $50 million. You cannot go over that $50 million. Estimated cost of issuance. These are upfront professional fees listed at $500,000. That would leave $49,500,000 in available proceeds for hard and soft costs, the dollars going into the projects talked about here tonight. The length of the bonds, final maturity of the bonds can be no longer than 20 years after each bond issuance. That is state statute. Maximum interest rate is listed at 7%. If you were to do these bonds today, you're talking 3.5% to 4%. We're not doing these bonds today. These will be financed over the course of the next couple of years. Interest rates have fluctuated. They have been coming down the last couple of years, but it's anyone's guess what they're going to do over the course of the next couple of years. So we're very conservative in this number. The $50 million at 7% comes out at an estimated interest expense of $42,452,900. Again, if and when these bonds are issued in the future, hopefully at a much lower interest rate, that estimated interest expense should come down significantly. The maximum annual payment, this is the highest payment you could make in any one year in regards to this bond issue, listed at $12 million. The estimated maximum tax rate impact is listed at 27.73 cents. I always like to talk through this one. Does not mean your tax rate is going up 27 cents. This is simply formulaic. Takes that maximum annual payment, that $12 million, divides it by your current net assessed value. So again, it's purely a formula. We do not expect that tax rate to go up 27 cents because of this project, but that's how it has to be listed in the resolution. The net impact on the debt service levy, this would be the dollars. This is set up for the 2% increase that Zach had mentioned. We would see a net levy increase of $714,000, but our previous page has demonstrated that you certainly don't have to increase the debt levy in order to issue these bonds. Last two pieces of information per statute that we have to talk about. The maximum annual debt service as a percent of your net assessed value is 0.45%. And then direct and overlapping debt as a percent of your AV. This is your debt plus the other unit's debt that the taxpayer would see. That is listed at 8.18%. So that's my role tonight. I appreciate you having me tonight. I'm going to turn it back over to Zach, but happy to answer any questions at the end should you have any.
Thank you, Matt, for providing that framework around our debt capacity. So as we wrap, I think first of these two public hearings, I want to bring our focus back to the big picture. Tonight was about transparency, demonstrating both the clear educational need identified in our facility studies and our facilities and our financial ability to address these needs responsibly. The $50 million as an investment represents a proactive strategy to keep PHM best in class. As we move toward our second hearing, I want to leave the board and our community with these high-level takeaways regarding our fiscal health. This is a strategic investment. We are proposing to address building envelope, safety, and learning spaces now, preserving the value of our community assets before maintenance needs become more costly emergencies. Fiscal stability in a new era. We have demonstrated that despite the complexity of SEA 1, our levy-focused strategy allows us to fund those projects within the tax caps while providing a lower relative tax impact for our homeowners compared to the previous property tax structure. And ultimately, our commitment to the classroom. Because we are utilizing the appropriate local funding buckets for these capital needs, we are ensuring that the educational fund remains focused on providing high-level instruction, allowing us to invest in compensation and professional development to retract and attain our top teachers and staff for our students. So tonight's presentation was intended to demonstrate that PHM remains in a positive fiscal position to execute these projects within the protections of the state property tax caps. This information is now before you for your consideration. We look forward to the second public hearing and would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Before we get to the public hearing, board members, any questions? I now open the public.
Number one, I appreciate you putting the 7% interest rate. That's one thing I always worry about is an interest rate sensitivity analysis. By doing it at the 7%, you're really giving us a 3.5% cushion compared to today's rate. So I appreciate the analysis being done that way. Thank you very much for that. I would be interested, and maybe you don't have a number today, but if we kept our property tax rate at the standard, the 92.5 or whatever the heck the number is, that we use forever, what would be the loss of money that we would have compared to the flexible assessed value approach that you're suggesting we do?
Yeah, if we look at it again, just a year out, there's minimal impact at the margin. We're
talking
talking
really 28 and 29.
But as you get into, well, as you see the full progression of SEA 1 into 2031, the levy approach versus the rate approach is approximately $6 to $8 million projection, right? Obviously, that's 5 years out, and financial projections more than a few years gets dangerous. Yeah, right. That would be the delta in that year, right? That we accrue. Right, so it would start at roughly $200,000, but by the time we've moved out to 2031, we're looking at anywhere from $6 to $8 million levy impact by those two, the difference of those two
So
strategies.
if people ask us this change in approach from what you've done forever, the cost to us would be $8 million. That'd be a fair answer.
Yes, I believe that's a fair answer.
Thank you.
Other board members, questions or comments? Hearing none, I now open the public hearing. Remember, if you would like to speak, please sign in on this sheet, which is located in the vestibule. As I mentioned earlier, we ask you to state your name and address and limit your comments to the proposed projects and financing. Keep any comments to under 3 minutes and avoid being repetitive if possible. Mrs. Hugenboom, do we have a sign-in sheet? Did anybody sign in? Okay. Mrs. Hugenboom, for the record, is noting that nobody signed in. So I want to express the board's appreciation for everybody who participated in the hearing. We appreciate your time, your interest in this project and the future of our community. Please note, as Mr. Quiet noted, that this is just the first step in the legal process. No board action is legally required at this hearing. Rather, this hearing is solely to hear public comment. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. The board will hold a second public hearing at Meadows Edge Elementary School on March 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. I'll now move on to the hearing of visitors. For the hearing of visitors, the public is invited to address the board, and there are about 2 to 3 minutes worth of instructions and guidelines that I read if there's anybody who would like to address the board. So before I do that, let me just ask, is there anybody who wants to address the board? Okay, hearing seeing none, we'll move to board reports and requests. Board members, anything to report or request?
Tonight I walked in and received all of these wonderful thank you notes from students in our community and at all of our schools. Since January was School Board Member Appreciation Month, which I just learned that last January. So I just wanted to thank all of the students that sent these to us, and it's just an honor to serve our community. And then lastly, I wanted to congratulate Mrs. Reisdorf on her retirement. She took me under her wing when I was a first-year teacher at Prairie Vista, and I would not have been the teacher I was without her. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bell. Other board members, reports or requests?
I just want to thank Dr. Short and administration for their persistence in getting us leeway on the snow days and allowing our teachers and staff and students to enjoy those extra days of summer. I know that's been a hot topic the last few weeks in the public, and so appreciate your persistence there. The information you shared, transparency, the letter you sent with the detail, I thought it was first in class, which we always expect. And then Ms. Fry, great presentation again. That was fantastic. Every year I wonder how they're going to outdo it. The PNN involvement and all that, that was top notch. So that's all I have.
I'm going to say something that's going to make my colleagues on the school board probably upset with me, but when I read the application for the waivers that Dr. Short had prepared, I offered her a job as an attorney. Other reports and requests?
Couple things to bring up here. First of all, like Mrs. Bell, I really wanted to thank I think mine was from Rand students who took the time to write thank you notes. And I love one of them. The note said, thank you for your service. And by the way, we have great teachers. Will you please keep them? So I thought that was kind of funny in this note that they had put in there as well. Kind of along that same line. So I really appreciate, Rand has an outstanding principal there, award-winning principal, I might add as well. I really appreciate her time and effort in pulling that together. The other thing is I really, first of all, this has been just a nuts winter. I think we could all agree on that. And first of all, thanks to the teachers and administration. When you don't know minute by minute, I know I've been a teacher who was always worried about what the heck the day's going to be. When you don't know from day to day how things are going to go, the flexibility that you guys have to do that, that doesn't go unrecognized. And I just want to thank you all, teachers and administrators, for what you do on a day-to-day basis by keeping things. Along with that, the first line of safety is our custodians and bus drivers many times. I can't imagine being a bus driver this year. I still can't get out of my cul-de-sac at all. I can imagine driving a bus down the cul-de-sac. Just can't say thank you enough to them. I'm certain in their job description, they never wanted to drive in, or even from the custodian's perspective, I can't imagine I know what I track in at my house. I can't imagine what gets tracked in here on a day-to-day basis, and greatly appreciate all their work and time and effort of pulling this together. But one other thing I want to talk a little bit about was the legislation. Last month, they talked about the state, local wanting to take over school boards in certain areas. Thank goodness that got pulled before it continued to go forward. A lot of it had to do with people reaching out and reaching out to the state to tell them their thoughts on that bill. Two other things are sitting out there big that I just want to make you aware of, and your views on this, you ought to get with your legislators pretty quickly because they're going to happen fast. The first is the bell-to-bell cell phone. That appears to have a ton of success to move forward. The holdups seem to be what storage is going to happen and what happens with exceptions. So to the extent that you have thoughts and views on that, I'd get those out pretty quickly. Another one somebody talked about earlier, the politicization of school board candidates. There's a bill out there right now that would, I mean, I don't know if any of you have ran for election, but having your name first is really a big deal in an election. And this is going to put where the actual parties would be listed first, independents would be listed second, and candidates who choose not to declare would be listed at the bottom of the candidate list. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And so to the extent you all have thoughts on that, you ought to get that out there pretty quickly as well. The last thing I wanted to do, and I don't know, I was going to talk a lot about it, but I won't. Mrs. Smoker and I attended the leadership conference in Indy. It was a great session, probably one of the best sessions I ever went to. They had a study that was done with a ton of data by the Iowa School Board Association. And the topic was the impact that school boards can have on student achievement. And the data that they put together made it very clear that highly effective school boards can have tremendous impact on student achievement, even high student achievement. If you have a highly effective school board, it can raise it even higher. They listed out some items as to what would characterize a highly effective school board. And I think, Mr. Riley, that's a list we ought to take. I was going to go through it, but it's a list we ought to take a look at and see where we measure on this Iowa study and the ISBA as well. So, thank you.
Very good. Look forward to it. I appreciate it, Mr. Fox. Other reports or requests?
Mr. Riley, I'd just like to recognize the Penn Jazz Band as well as the Discovery Jazz Band. I attended the Evening of Jazz last Friday with Dr. Short and Ms. Smoker. I've attended that event for several years. I love it. And they did another fantastic job. I just want to give the students a shout out. They did such a great job. I'm always amazed, and Mrs. Smoker and I talked about that, and how these students in middle school especially, who have been playing for a year, 2 years, 3 years at max, are like up there on stage playing this jazz music that sounds amazing. And then you progress through to the high school and you're like, wow. So anyway, congratulations to the students, to Mr. Greaser, the Penn Jazz Director, Mr. Weaver, the Discovery Jazz Director, and to the Penn Band Boosters who put on the whole show. So great job.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Any other reports or requests? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to announcements. Next regular meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees will convene on Monday, March 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. at Meadows Edge Elementary School. There's no further business before the board, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. We're adjourned at 7:43 p.m. Thank you so much for attending.